Hello, everyone, and hello to Joy. It's really a pleasure to have you with us today. I just wanted to quickly introduce you. Joy is the principal of Leverage PR, which is a Caliber Corporate Advisors company. She's an internationally recognized author, speaker in the field of innovative marketing and communication strategy. She's really an active technology leader, being an advisor on South by Southwest Accelerator, AARP's FinTech Accelerator. She served as executive chair of the FinTech Professionals Association, is a mentor of the Yodlee Interactive Incubator, and was on the board of CFIRA, and worked for many years on the Jobs Act. So Joy, have I got that about right? And
yeah,
could you give us some more background and essentially how you got sort of into the FinTech crowdfunding space?
Yeah, of course. So I started my career as a director of acquisitions for a real estate investment firm. And through the process of raising capital and doing acquisitions of apartment buildings throughout the Southwest United States, what I really found was that the process of raising capital was very inefficient and very broken. And so when the Jobs Act came about in 2012, it just really made a lot of sense. Crowdfunding made a lot of sense, utilizing technology to be able to facilitate capital formation. That was the key to unlocking a lot of inefficiencies within the investment place for private placements. So I got very into working with companies in this space through Leverage PR. While working with Leverage, we've done dozens of crowdfunding platforms that we've worked with over the years, including Wealth Migrate, which has experienced tremendous success. We've worked with banking technology companies and online lending and blockchain technology companies and payments and cybersecurity and all across the spectrum, really focusing within that FinTech, regulation technology and legal tech kind of worlds, if you will. So through that and kind of through the various board positions, I've really just seen how FinTech is revolutionizing the financial services and kind of how we interact with money at all levels. It's very exciting.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. It is so exciting to see how technology really is giving a lot more people access to products and different types of things that they never ever had access to in the past.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in terms of equity crowdfunding, I mean, that sort of is the space that the Jobs Act sort of was sort of involved with. How should people who are thinking about running a campaign, for their company, for example, what do you suggest that they do to plan before they actually take those steps?
Yeah, so it's not kind of one of those if you launch your campaign they will come things. It's really a marketing. It's a marketing campaign at its core. And one of the byproducts of this marketing campaign is you may get money out of it. Yeah. However, if this is more of a consumer play, or, you're a business and you're not necessarily raising for an investment, but you're raising money for your company, then other byproducts of this marketing campaign could be customer acquisition. It could be spreading the word about your company, getting a lot of SEO for long-term success. And so as you're looking at potentially starting a campaign, you really need to create a plan that really walks through the different elements. And so what I mean by that is 3 to 6 months before you even launch your campaign, you need to start working on building your list. So building your email list, that's critically important. So connecting with as many people as you can, going to conferences in your industry, collecting those business cards, networking like crazy, getting to know the right people, sharing your vision, not to ask for money. Don't tell them you're launching a campaign, but talk to them about, how your product will value them. So get information, ask questions, really kind of dig into how they would benefit out of this. Because at the end of the day, if the end user does not, or the end investor, whoever it is, does not benefit, you won't get money and your business will ultimately not succeed. And so really identifying how can you provide value in this chain, and getting that information, kind of testing it, if you will, within, these conversations you're having, will give you the script for the crowdfunding campaigns, and will really give you the script to kind of use to market and sell your business ultimately. So also building your social media presence, setting auto, kind of the auto keywords for it. And there's some great tools. So spyfu, S-P-Y-F-U, is a tool that essentially allows people to be able to research the keywords of their competitors and to see which ones are doing the best. And so with spyfu, what you can do is you can go in, if you don't know your keywords, go in, look for those keywords, and then once you have them, you can use tools like paper.li in your Twitter account to bring in news feeds of the top news for your particular industry. That will help you start to build a following, as well as kind of develop thought leadership in that space. Set Google alerts for your keywords every day. Monitor those keywords, find out, that'll tell you what conferences are going on. That will tell you who will be, who's writing in that space from a journalist standpoint. That'll really, give you a lot of that'll give you a lot of information about kind of what's going on in the space, if you will. And so use that, start building a list of the journalists, start looking at what types of conferences you can attend. Is there associations you can join, where you can potentially join a committee, or work with the association and start building a reputation for yourself there. So it's really all about, in that early phase, building as big of a network as you possibly can for your campaign.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. And it is essentially not only by doing that are you actually building a community around you. Sort of the money is possibly could be secondary, because that community actually ends up being worth quite a bit, in terms of running your company.
Absolutely. People pay a lot for customer acquisition. You can spend hundreds of thousands, millions on customer acquisition, getting those customers in the door. And so what you're really looking at this as, this is your proof of concept phase in a way, a lot of times, and this is your customer acquisition phase. And so if you can prove that you're a good marketer, that you can get these customers in the door, one, you may not need as much money as you think you need, because you're going to have customers. At the end of the day, the ultimate holy grail is revenue. That's what you should be aiming for. Money is great, but I've personally bootstrapped and sold my own company, and have been involved with other companies that have bootstrapped and sold. And it's a heck of a lot nicer to be able to grow your business without outside investment capital than to have to need that. So that should be your goal. Like, how can I really grow this thing? And then the money is just a secondary byproduct. No,
absolutely. So, I mean, talking about money, how does one decide how much to raise then? You don't want to raise too much or too little, or so, what would you think is the best way to decide?
So, I mean, it really depends on the person's business model. If there's any way that you can possibly bootstrap, if you have a consumer products company, for example, do donation reward, reward crowdfunding, pre-sale your products. Do not try to go raise capital. Raising capital, people will go buy a product and they'll be a heck of a lot more forgiving if it takes longer. Because, at the end of the day, they're buying a product and they don't want to return on the company. They want their product.
Yes.
If you pre-sell that way, then at the end of the day, you have more time. You can refine your process as you go along your sales process. You can test different colors and features and really find out like what are the types of products, what are the feature sets for these products or services that people want the most.
Yeah.
And then ultimately that will really help you be successful, right? You can put your rewards as like 4 different color options or 4 different feature options, see which one people go for, and set the price the same, or, price discriminate in there and with lower prices for the first early adopters to get you through that hurdle. So there's lots of ways to kind of do to pre-raise that money. The pre-sales are the best if you can do it, if you've got that consumer product. If you can't, and you truly do need to raise money, it's really making sure that you're raising enough to be able to meet milestones, to help your business grow. Because the worst thing is to not necessarily raise enough, and then maybe you need $1 million, but you just raise 300,000, and then you don't have the runway to get yourself to that revenue positive place.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's really helpful. When you started out, you sort of answered my next question, which was going to be, how would you say is the most important way to make your campaign a success? In terms of building lists and making sure that you have that before you actually launch. Is there anything else you think that is really must be there in order for you to have success?
Do as much work as you possibly can. Write out all your marketing content. Make sure your social, your kind of social image and digital presence is set and ready to impress. If you've had any sort of questionable online issues, right? So reputation damage online, things of that nature, you're probably not going to be successful crowdfunding. It's a very digital venture, and people are going to be doing a lot of online research for you. And so you really need to make sure that you've got a solid buttoned up online presence. That's very critical and important.
Okay, yeah, no, absolutely. So what are some mistakes that you've seen people make, that are glaringly obvious, and, try and avoid these?
Yeah, so the biggest mistake is waiting to kind of reach out to their network until the day that they launch their campaign. So what I kind of look at this as, there needs to be 3 groups, your A, B, and C group of donors, backers, investors, what have you. 2 to 3 months before your campaign, or longer if possible, grab a spreadsheet, go to your LinkedIn, go to your database, everything, right? Mine as many emails as you can possibly mine, get those email addresses, and then spend some time going through your database and segmenting them into A, B, and C backers. So your A backers are going to be the people who are most likely to pre-back you. They could be people who know you, people who are really familiar with, both you as well as your industry, people that will probably contribute to your campaign. Those are your A people. Out of that A people, you want to do another category of your top 20% of those A people. And with those top 20%, you want to reach out to all of them personally. And that's probably only going to be a list, depending upon your network. It could be as big as, 20 people. It could be as small as 5 people. It's not going to be a huge list because it's just the top 10% of that A list. You're going to reach out to them before your campaign even starts and figure out something nice to do for them. So, don't ask them for anything. Don't talk about your campaign. Figure out, can you do a favor for them? Can you introduce them to somebody who could help their business? Can you connect them, with somebody who would be a mentor? how can you help these people? Or, just reach out to say, or how can you help their family? How can you do something for them? Because those are going to be the people who are going to be most likely to donate, and you don't want your first connection with them in, maybe 6 months or a year to be you asking them for money. You really want to, in fact, your whole entire A-list, if possible, send a pre-email to them 2 to 3 months before your campaign or before you're ready to even do anything, and just reconnect with them. Make it about them. How are they? What's going on in their life? Just wanting to catch up, right?
Yeah.
Don't mention anything about your needs to this A-list. It's just about catching up. That's going to kind of get them ready. So the biggest mistake I see people make is they, don't talk to people forever and then come to them with their handout saying, hey, can you invest in my company? Can you buy my product? Can you donate to me? We don't like that. Like, I don't like that when I get hit up for money, and the people with money are always getting hit up for money in life. And so that it's the automatic way to guarantee you won't get money is to have your first interaction being with them, hitting them up for money. Right. And so just precede that list. Those are going to be the people, those early adopters. And then once you've preceded that list, what you can then do is turn around and say, okay, I am going to, a month before the campaign or 2 months, send them what you're doing and just ask for their advice. Say, hey, it was great to talk with you a couple months ago. I'd really love your advice on what I'm doing here. And have them look at it, have them, take a peek and just see, is this something that they would be interested in? What are their thoughts? Don't try to sell them. It's just get their opinion and advice. And then once they give that to you, what you can do is you can turn around and say, thank you so much. I would love you to be an investor on this if you're interested. And then go for the ask, right? That ask should be done at least a month before your campaign launches, because what you want to do is on a spreadsheet, start tracking all of the yeses and those dollar amounts by them. And that way, when the campaign launches, it's launching with, hopefully at least 30% you want to have pre-raised before your campaign even launches. That way, day one, it can be a huge spike of traffic. You've got that excitement behind it. And then you launch to those B players, right? So the B players are that second group where they're not guaranteed, but if those B players were to see a little bit of momentum, you can kind of catch up with those people and send them that catch-up email. But those B players in that catch-up email, you can be like, yeah, I just wanted to also share what I was up to now. We actually just launched a campaign to fund, for people in my business. I hope all's going well with you. And by the way, here's a link to the campaign. We've had a ton of success already. So that can be one where you still want to frame it in how are you and make it about them, but then you can sneak it in after you've had that initial success with those B players. Now, the C players are the ones that are in that third group that are really the people who maybe you've got their email address, you met them at a conference, their connections through LinkedIn or Facebook, but really you don't know these people super well. Once you have really, really good momentum built up on your campaign, that's the time to blast them. And kind of similar tactics. How are you? And, by the way, here's some media hits from my campaign. Here's, the success I'm having. And then as you're doing your updates along the way, then you can kind of drip in additional media hits you got. You can drip in how successful your campaign's going, all these little things.
Yeah, no, gee, that's really great. That's a blueprint for people to use. And yeah, it's awesome that it's similar to what other people have said, but that really went into quite a lot of depth. So thanks so much for that, Joy. It really is good.
Absolutely.
If we sort of turn a little bit and try and focus on Africa, I know you've been out to South Africa before, and you're not an expert on Africa, I'm sure, but so just sort of in your opinion, what role do you think crowdfunding should be playing in the sort of startup ecosystem, in Africa?
Yeah, I mean, so I think that there's so many people worldwide who want to help Africa. There's Kiva, for example. There's so many people who are looking for, money to get a small business started, money to buy, maybe you're in a rural area of Africa and you're really just looking for initial funds to, maybe it's to buy a solar powered charger or, battery station where people can go and plug in their cell phones and you can charge a little bit. Or maybe it's, to develop some sort of technology that, that helps, right? That helps people more, or, chickens to start a little agricultural business where you can sell eggs, right? I've seen so many different loans on Kiva, where people can go in and get low interest rate loans through these crowdfunding platforms to help them develop a business where they wouldn't have access to capital. So from a very rural standpoint, I think people are very attracted to Africa and attracted to the idea of helping somebody start this really micro business, right? So there's one aspect of it. But then for serious business, for people who are actually starting global businesses, I think, we've seen that with Wealth Migrate, where they made the list of KPMG's top 100 startups in the world. They're number 42 for FinTech startups in the world. And they're, the other people on that list are, in some cases, 5 to 100 times the revenue that Wealth Migrate has. But because they're operating in a market, but really focusing on that global presence and being a global player and really working hard. The Wealth Migrate team has worked so hard and produced these exceptional investment returns for the investors who work with them, and they've really been solid over the years. And so what that's done is that's given Wealth Migrate the ability to compete on a global stage in a way that it would be hard for them to in America. And so I think that there's being in a small pond, like Africa, right? In a lot of ways, it's a smaller market. You have more opportunities to really shine.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with that. In Africa, you do sort of have to focus on either on the whole of Africa or the globe, in order for your business to actually make sense. So what would you say would be important for, in terms of the African consumer? There aren't necessarily many people using crowdfunding currently. What would you think is the best way for them to understand it, or for it to be spread more?
I think there's a couple different fronts, right? And so I think one of the best things to do is go on and make a very small micro investment. Go on to a platform like Wealth Migrate or like Kiva or, wherever, right? So Kiva's a little different because you're not going to get investment return, but just doing things like going on to Wealth Migrate or some of the other investment platforms, you will see a blueprint of how to do it successfully. And you'll probably make a return as well, right? So there's a lot of ways, but one of the best ways to learn is by doing. And so go on, look to see, what other people are doing. Do a small $100 investment into, some property or something, and get a taste for, okay, what does this process look like? What kind of updates am I getting? What is happening along the way, and start filing those away, because that's a blueprint for how to be successful in the things that you're doing. And instead of having to, pay thousands of dollars to get that blueprint, you can make an investment and potentially, and potentially even get a great return. If you look at the past performance of what their other investors have received, and then almost learn along the way how to do these things.
No, absolutely. The diaspora tends to, of course, be a big part of African development. Do you think, from a crowdfunding point of view, that's something that we'll see happening more and more now? With the diaspora being able to access opportunities through crowdfunding campaigns.
Can you, what's the diaspora?
So Africans living abroad. So I mean,
okay, got it.
For remittances back into Africa. Got it.
I think that could be, it's all about your network. And so those Africans living abroad and sending the remittances back, those are just people, right? And so at the core of it, I think the most important thing to do is strengthen your network, especially your network within your own industry. If you're B2B, if you're a business to consumer, focus on those consumers, focus on what they want, their needs. But it's really all about reaching the people who care about what you care about. That's the key.
Okay. Yeah, no, absolutely. Wherever they are in the world, that's what is key.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, people making an investment is a psychological, it's very psychological. Even if it's a very small amount, if you fail, if that investment fails, then you feel cheated. You feel like you were stupid. You feel like you didn't do your research. There's all of these things that play from a psychological perspective. And so that makes it harder. People will go buy something on Kickstarter that's like a pre-bought product. They'll spend $300, $400, $500 without batting an eye necessarily. But they wouldn't invest that same $500 without like 10 times the amount of research. And the reason why is because if that product doesn't come, or it's late, or something happens, then at the end of the day, they didn't get their product. And they're not happy about that, but they don't feel nearly as cheated or as bad about themselves as if they invested that, because there's an automatic assumption that, like, I'm doing something that's risky. I'm making a choice here. It's very different. Buying a product doesn't have the same effect. And so you really have to cross all your T's and dot all your I's, and really, have a lot of credibility if you're asking people for money to invest. You need the same amount of credibility for a pre-sale product, but it's different. You need to, pre-sale products, they want to know about your experience in manufacturing, or, this or that. Investment, they want to know who you are. They want to know, everything about you, because that's a trust factor.
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
so
absolutely.
That's, long story short, that's why I think it doesn't matter necessarily from the investment standpoint. It's almost going to be harder if you're in Africa to get people outside of Africa to be interested, because there's a little bit of that fear of global investment going on. And so it's, you're going to want to make sure you're still working within your trusted network or people who are in your industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Joy, where do you see crowdfunding in the next 10 years? Globally and in Africa, where's it going to?
Yeah. So, from an investment perspective, it's just the way that people raise capital now. Whether you're a huge major investment firm, or, whether you're raising money to flip a house or something, there's platforms everywhere that are giving people the tools to raise money. It's how you syndicate money for private placement offerings. It's just how you do it. It used to be, when you were raising capital, you had your institutional partners, so your private equity funds or your hedge funds, or big pension funds or whatever who would put in, maybe they'd put in 50%. You'd get a couple of those institutional partners to get you that 80% of the capital, and then you'd have to raise the other 10 to 20% of the capital from smaller investors. That piece of the capital stack, that 10 to 20% that used to come from just like dialing for dollars from the investment firm world, is now coming from crowdfunding platforms a lot of times. Yeah. And so it's really just changed the capital raising process. And I think what we're going to see is it's going to continue to change that process and continue to dominate that. And people are going to get more comfortable with it as they see returns, as they see major exits occurring as well with companies that were crowdfunded from the technology perspective. We have a crowdfunded IPO, for example, or something big happening in that space that will just continue to help it as those companies mature. From the pre-product sales standpoint, also I think we've really seen that this is the way companies start now. It used to be that in the phases of a startup, you had concept, go out, do friends and family round, then go out and start develop your prototype or whatever, and then then you went and raised money to scale, and then you scaled a little bit, and then you went to VCs. Now, in that particular process, even before friends and family, pre-product sales have replaced it. Yeah. It's almost that you're taking the risk out of it, because it's no longer, if you can't sell your prototype, if you can't sell what you're doing in that pre-product phase, like that pre-product phase, you should never take money from your friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's very, they're your support system. You don't want to sit around at Thanksgiving with people who you just lost all, who you just scaled and they put in their savings. That's awkward.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I completely agree. I think it's going to just be more commonplace. It's not going to be something different. It's not going to be sort of crowdfunding and traditional. It's going to be the way it's done.
Yeah, it's just a phase in the business cycle now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If we move to a little bit more sort of recommendations from you, two questions I always like to ask. The first is, what resource do you think on the internet is, the internet or technology is really vital to your daily life? What do you think is something you couldn't live without?
Gosh, what resources daily? From an image development standpoint, I would say, as silly as it sounds, for smaller people just starting out, I think, or smaller businesses just starting out, I think your Google Alerts, that is your daily information feed. It's the way you're going to grow your network. It's the way you're going to grow your standing in your community, because it's going to give you all of the competitive intelligence you need, everything you need to be a thought leader, everything you need to grow your network in a 20-minute read a day. Or less. So I would say your Google Alerts are really, really, really important to what you're doing, for sure.
Yeah, awesome. And is there a particular book that you think people should have read if they're in this space?
So I think every business person or anybody looking to start a company needs to read Peter Thiel's 0 to 1. And the reason I think that is because if what you're doing does not amount to an exponential return, or you're not dramatically fixing something, you're probably not going to be successful in a big way, right? You could be successful in a little way and you could start a business. But if you're looking to do something really big or make a big profit, then you need to really think about things a little bit differently.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. So now, Joy, I know things have changed a little bit in your life recently. Was there anything you'd like to share about new products that you're working on?
Excuse me. Get some smoothie here. So yeah, I mean, right now, I just sold my company, Leverage PR. We were acquired by a New York-based firm, Caliber Corporate Advisors, that have a team in New York. They acquired my team here in Austin. I'm still an advisor to the company, but it's really amazing, just the growth that has been experienced since the acquisition. For the Soul, we were the two of the biggest kind of 5 FinTech PR firms in the world. And so we were both boutiques, but at the end of the day, we had the most expertise in this niche space. And so it's really been fantastic for our clients and given them some amazing tools. And it's allowed me the ability to take a step back and do some traveling. And I'll be really, really excited about, some new potential opportunities come the fall. But right now it's just taking a little break post sale.
No, well, that's really great. So, if people wanted to, they were interested in the PR sort of side of things, who should they get hold of?
Yeah.
And who can?
So yeah, have them reach out to me, Joy at leverage-pr.com. So just leverage-pr.com. I'd love to chat with them. Love to help them. We do a lot of global work. So global FinTech companies that are really looking to develop their FinTech presence and be seen as the leader. We'd love to chat with them.
Great. Well, thanks so much. And thank you so much for taking the time out to answer the questions and to share your immense knowledge. We really do appreciate it. And all the best for the travels. And I'm sure we'll see you again afterwards with a bit of a tan.
I look forward to it. It's been an honor. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thanks so much, Joy. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.
If you are as excited about crowdfunding as we are, subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below.